This story has two parts, so be patient and read through to get to the very end when they get karma. My husband, 37 male, moved in his siblings without even letting me, 32 female, know. All of our future plans have basically been thrown away and I'm heartbroken. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. For some context, his siblings, twins, male and female, are in their early 20s and are underdeveloped physically and mentally. They can take care of themselves as far as wiping themselves, going to the bathroom and feeding themselves, but they are rather weak, having brittle and fragile bones, and combined with their mental maturity, which is similar to that of about a 12 to 13-year-old, they have to be monitored, cooked for, assisted with going upstairs, moving around for long distances, etc. They can't take care of themselves financially because of all this. All of this I knew while we were dating, but they were being cared for by a team of nurses and caregivers at that time, not in our home. But about a few months ago, the team was all fired. My husband told me that he was planning to move them in, and about a week or so later, they were moved in, along with a new team. I had no say or even much a heads up about any of it. The house suddenly became full of staff, someone was always there. Our privacy was basically snatched away. My husband already has a busy schedule, he's a doctor, on call a lot. And now I feel like we barely have time to ourselves. I'm competing with everything and everyone. We were about to start a family now that we were all settled, things were good between us, but now everything has been thrown into chaos, and I don't know how to feel. I feel almost a sense of grief. I feel like I have no control of anything. I feel like he just threw away our future and plans, as cruel as that may sound. We had a talk and everything was pointing toward a divorce, but I just feel so bitter. I feel like he's just giving up. He feels like I'm not being thoughtful enough. I love him more than anything and want to salvage our marriage if I can, before just making any snap decisions. Any advice is appreciated. Edit. Also, I should say that his parents are estranged. I've never met them, not even before we married. He cut them off a while ago, for a very understandable reason. The top replies. You said he had a very good reason for firing the last staff. Probably he now feels he needs oversight before he can trust new staff. After some monitoring, will he ever be comfortable leaving his siblings with staff outside of your home like before? Can he hide cameras, like he is doing now in your home? You need to know how permanent this situation is. As you've said, his parents were not trustworthy and are not in the picture, his siblings are his responsibility. Seems like legally, ethically and in his heart. If the actions of the old staff have made it impossible for him to let his siblings live separately, then you need to decide what you can live with. You have said his siblings are mentally children and physically very fragile. Obviously they can't care for themselves. I don't think it is fair to say your husband willfully changed your situation. He never wanted his siblings abused and his trust violated. He clearly didn't plan that. He is doing the best he can in a bad situation. There are professional guardians. That is something you can look into if you want your situation to change. Is there a safe institution they can be in? Is there a trustworthy guardian who can oversee their care and caregivers? Also, your husband is responsible for his siblings, but you are not. You can look into dwellings that are adjacent but not shared, like a duplex or mother-in-law suite where your husband can be close and monitoring, but you can have a home and potentially children in your own space. Or you can leave him if his expectation is to live in the same home with his siblings and their caretakers forevermore. Good luck. The second reply. A lot of people seem to say either, 1, you should leave, or 2, act like you aren't being compassionate enough. I don't know if there is a path forward, but it is clear to me you are compassionate. You get why he's doing it, you don't resent the decision he made really, more that he didn't include you. That is valid. Even if realistically there was no alternative for him, which sounds like it may be the case, he needs to at least acknowledge that this is difficult for you. And it is okay and natural to grieve the future you had thought would be yours. Grieving your plans for the life you thought you'd have doesn't make you less compassionate. It makes you human. Grieving for your own loss and realizing your husband was in an impossible position aren't mutually exclusive. Whether you can chart a new path with him or decide to go your own way, either way you have seen one version of the future you were expecting die. You seem like a good person, so I'm confident you'll find a new future that will be great. I hope you have your own friends and family besides your husband to lean on. If you stay, you and your husband will both need a lot of emotional support. Of course, if you can't make it work, you'll need support then too. Third reply. You left out really important contextual information around the cause of the decision being an imminent need to address active, ongoing abuse. While I can absolutely appreciate that he should have communicated more fully with you prior to them moving in, I can also appreciate that immediate physical harm trumps feelings for many. From your comments it seems like you can too. You also say that it has been a few months, the siblings are safe now. There is space to talk about plans for moving forward that are mutually acceptable and sustainable for all parties. It sounds like you are feeling that you have no voice or choice in the continued plans and he is just avoiding the issue through working. This is the part for me that would also make me question if is this a deal breaker. There is some solid advice on here. Something that I would suggest is considering what your goal for the conversation is and staying on track with it. Are you talking about planning the future together, where your needs hold the weight of an equal partner? Or, are you talking about the past and what it will take to forgive? Both are valid and necessary conversations to have. However, they are also likely to be more constructive if they are kept separate. The update. After taking everyone's thoughts into consideration and taking some time to myself to think, I sat down with my husband when he was off call and told him I wanted to talk about everything that's happened. He told me that he wanted to talk too, and we had a raw heart-to-heart about everything. We discussed the main issue that I mentioned in my previous post. I told him that I felt hurt about him not consulting or even telling me about what was going on, and he sincerely apologized for it, telling me that he wasn't thinking about much else other than their situation, which I understood, even if it still made me feel a certain way. But then he told me that he needed to be honest to me about something, and that he understood that it may affect things between us, but that the whole situation with his siblings and their previous care team made him realize it even more. He became very blunt. He told me that while he loves me more than anything, he loves them more, and that he has to put them first from now on, above anything. He told me that he couldn't handle anything else happening, and that everything he's done, the cameras, moving in the staff, was necessary. And while this of course hurt for me to hear, even though, I understand, like I have for this whole situation, I realized some things. He might have acted selfishly at first, even if it was understandable, but my reaction could have been better, I admit. He was breaking down right in front of me, reliving trauma that reminded him of his childhood, and I was too busy in my own feelings to offer any true support. I felt awful about that. I didn't mention much of it in the previous post, but his parents were truly awful people. Their neglect caused the undeveloped/regressed state of the twins in the first place, and if he hadn't taken care of them while they were small, they possibly wouldn't have survived. They're very attached to him, almost like a small child with their parent. As painful as it was, I accepted that I couldn't come before their relationship. I did know about his legal obligation before we became married, so I obviously knew they were important to him. I have no bitter feelings toward the two. They're innocent in this situation and are very precious in their ways in general. As far as our future plans, we agreed that we'd wait a few years, 3 at the max, before truly deciding if we wanted to have a child or not. We were on the fence, but I was falling in love with the idea of motherhood perhaps more than I realized. He was also very receptive about having designated areas that were staff only and me only. It's already been implemented a bit, with still more things to out in place, and I'm feeling a lot better about that already. And lastly, I realize that this may seem like the fool's option to some, to the many who jumped straight to divorce, but now I know of all the facts and where he stands, so anything that may happen from now will be completely on me. I feel hopeful in my decision, and am not wanting to give up. For him, and the marriage that I still value so much, I am willing to give it a try and try to adjust to our new normal. Thank you to everyone who helped me. Final update. Thank you everyone, I'm logging out from this account now. I appreciated some of the advice more than others, but everyone's opinions were still read. Overall, I am content with my decision and am looking forward to seeing what the future might bring for us. Whether we have children or not, with the resources that we have, I am sure we will work things out. We both know where the other stands, and what we've gotten into. That conversation we will revisit when we make our decision. We love each other, whether some choose to believe it or not.
Thanks again. The top replies.
Well, I can't even begin to imagine what your husband has been through, nor his siblings.
I don't have good advice since I can't begin to comprehend how to handle this awful situation all around.
All I can say is, you can endure this as long as you can.
But, if it comes the time where you feel unable to continue, you need to leave, for your own mental health. As sad as it might be, you can't set yourself on fire to keep them warm just because you want to stay with him.
Sooner or later, there'll be a moment where it comes between you or them. Your husband already told you who comes first. I'm not saying to hold this over him or even feel resentful. All I'm saying, you gotta keep this thought at the back of your mind once as Lashif the hammer drops. Second reply. From reading your story, I don't necessarily think he doesn't consider you, he just isn't used to having help or being able to count on people to help with his siblings. As you said, his parents are awful and they are the ones who should have stepped up and loved and cared for their own children but haven't. Your husband probably feels that he is the only person those kids have and they need him or they will be institutionalized, which your husband has probably seen firsthand the way patients are treated there. I know you feel like he pushed you away, but he is truly between a rock and a hard place, and if he can set the staff and house up where it is not horrible for you and he sees that you are an advocate for his siblings plus a partner to him, then I think he will come around to tell you how much you mean to him and you are not in second place to the siblings. Right now, he feels his hands are tied and I so understand this. I have a special needs child who is basically nonverbal and cannot do many tasks. Thank goodness my husband is an absolute gem and we split it all 50/50. But when we were working on our wills and trying to decide who or what to do if something happened to us, it was very eye-opening.
I am sending you all good thoughts and prayers that everything calms down and you all come through this happy and healthy and stronger. The third reply.
Reading your post. He got worried about a bad nursing team for his siblings, threw them out and got all of them over to your house. So, you are living in a nursing home now without a chance on a say in whatever concerns both of you. Depending on their condition and the progress, stagnation of his siblings' health status, you may be for many years of your life be unimportant in your own home.
You value your marriage and he values his siblings.
The chance that you may be really able to sit through it until it eventually ever gets better again are very small.
Depending on what caused their conditions, they still may have a very long life ahead of them. You spoke about brittle bones.
Prior to ever thinking of having children, you should have checked genetically, if there isn't a hereditary health condition in that family. Though his parents may be responsible for his siblings' mental state, the brittle bone issue very likely can't be imputed to them. Inform yourself on what is really happening in that family. Him being apparently healthy may not be a safeguard of him transmitting a genetically transmissible condition. Consider having children twice and really do get records straight. Otherwise, what he is going through currently with his siblings may become your future with your children.
You have taken that decision now, which really shows how much you love him and stand by him, but do remember, if it becomes unbearable, these are his kin, not yours.
You had no say, so it's not a responsibility you have to bear until your own old age. I am very sorry that this happened to you, and seeing your husband act as though he was a skilled medical caregiver and could decide on all that without medical supervision makes me upset for his siblings and for you, even if he is a doctor. I find his decision to turn himself into a nursing home rather to search for a better one as an emergency doctor as very irresponsible and emotional. He may think about one at some point being totally burned out.
Healthcare is a job division eating up the people's strength and lives who are working in it.
Please, do consider that and closely watch your own mental and physical health and chose to take the door if it becomes unbearable. He left your common marriage the day he went to housemate and caregiver modus with his siblings. I don't know if you really processed this by now.